Up to 50,000 people were executed during the witch trials. It was a period of history where people were being killed for witchcraft, something that wasn't even real. It might sound absurd now, but people were accusing their own neighbors and even their closest friends. This didn't just happen in one place, it spread across whole Europe. From hindsight, it looks like complete madness, right? Like something that could never happen now. And yet, when we see how easily it happened, it feels disturbingly familiar. It makes us ask a really uncomfortable question. If humans are so intelligent, why are they so incredibly stupid? I mean, look at what we are capable of. We are brilliant. We have decoded the secret of life with DNA. We have built massive civilizations and we have literally put a robot on Mars. We are the most advanced, yet can be so stupid. I'm basically talking about human frameworks, specifically our propensity to be manipulated. We have these powerful brains, yet we have this tragic tendency to be dragged into things like hate and violence through propaganda and blind following. We are stupid enough to hate just because we are told to. We are stupid enough to follow a crowd even when it's heading towards destruction. So, by stupidity, I don't mean low IQ, I mean systemic stupidity, the inability to see past the provided script. So, how does it all work? Information holds much more power than we realize. In some hands, it's like a remote control for the entire system. Those with the information edge don't just run the world or a particular system, they choose the version of reality we live in. They keep the system in their favor by distilling truth into myths and trapping us in echo chambers. That's the short answer. But to understand how it actually works, stay with me, there's a bit to unpack.
La dichiarazione di guerra è già stata consegnata agli ambasciatori.
It's not just history either, it has happened in recent years and is still happening. In Myanmar, simple Facebook posts were enough to distill an entire society into bloody clashes. And look at the conflicts happening as we speak. We are supposedly the most informed generation to ever live, yet we are divided over questions that shouldn't even be this difficult for an intelligent species. So, why do humans keep falling for the same traps in one way or another? The truth is, being smart doesn't protect you because power doesn't come from just having facts. It comes from the information imbalance. And it's something much more subtle. It's the gap between what one side knows and what the other side doesn't even realize they are missing. It's the gap between the big picture that the elites or the manipulators see and the small distorted script they feed to everyone else. In this video, I want to show you how this imbalance is the foundation of almost everything around you. It can basically play out at all levels, from micro level like personal relationship to macro level with whole society and nation. Think about it like this. There is this gap in information. The gap is when they understand the system and we don't. So they have the edge that gives them control over our situation. And the result is us moving exactly where they want us to go. You can observe such pattern at every level in a way. For instance, it can start small in places we wouldn't even call power, like say a mechanic telling us that our engine is ruined even if it's not. Because we don't know any better, we are forced to trust them. That small gap in knowledge gives them total power over our wallet. Now think about the same gap but on a scale of an entire nation. Our social systems, whether we are talking about the economy, politics, traditions, they have developed over thousands of years and they have become so incredibly complex. But because we have grown up entirely within a particular version of these systems, and because they are so complicated to make sense of, we naturally think of them as the only possible form of reality and believe about alternative perspectives as being simply entirely wrong. But these are the systems that shape our lives, and the people in positions of power within those institutions, the ones at the top, they actually see how things are working right now. They have the full picture, but instead of explaining the truth, they can choose to feed us a simplified narrative. And I'm not saying ideologies and worldviews are bad. They are extremely useful. They shape the world we live in and the benefits we derive from the system. But again, information imbalance can sometimes create problems without us even realizing how it all happened. Think about nationalism. In its best form, it has brought about self-government and freedom. It's one of the most powerful tools ever invented. But here's the contrast. By controlling that same information, an elite group can flip the script. They can take that healthy sense of belonging and weaponize it. They can turn it into forms like fascism, chauvinism, xenophobia, and the reason for war. And this dynamic kind of operates everywhere. In politics, elites use ideologies like nationalism to turn other humans like us into our mortal enemies. In economics, architects design complex financial systems systems that you use but don't understand, making you the one who pays when things break. In social life, media moguls write the narratives that tell you who to love and who to hate. This imbalance is everywhere. The idea of information imbalance isn't something that I have simply made up. It's a fundamental reality of human systems, what Nobel Prize winning economists Joseph Stiglitz and George Akerlof called information asymmetry. It is the same mechanism that philosopher Michel Foucault identified as power knowledge. Things become even complicated with the increasing complexity and volume of information in the system. To understand how it all works, you have to look at Nexus. Now, Nexus is a book that covers everything from Stone Age to the terrifying future of AI, but I won't be explaining the book. I'm taking the specific concept of Nexus and applying it to the world as a lens. The problem is that we operate in a naive view of information. We think that more data equals more truth. But in the real world, or in a more complete historical sense, most of the information in the system has a different primary function: order. To understand how, you have to look at Yuval's concept of intersubjective reality. Most of the information that runs our world, money, laws, nationalism, ideologies, it isn't objectively true like gravity. They are intersubjective myths. They only have power because we all collectively agree to act as if they are true. The diagram from Nexus makes it clear. Information doesn't just lead to truth. Most of the information is there to maintain order. And for the people running the system, order is often more valuable than truth. Truth is messy and unpredictable. You can't easily control a million people with the truth because it's full of nuance, and humans are basically more drawn to simple explanations or stories. So myths are efficient tools, but this very dynamic makes things dangerous as well. For instance, the statesman can simply reduce an otherwise complex scenario into a simplified and thus attractive us versus them narrative. And because it's so attractive, it becomes a very lucrative tool for them to further their goal. To keep everyone on the same page, the system creates an information cocoon. It's important to note that concepts like epistemic bubble, the information cocoon, and echo chamber are not unique to one book. They are well established frameworks used across social sciences, philosophy, and law to explain how our reality becomes distorted. But the job of the cocoon is to create a unified narrative so a society can actually function without constant internal friction. However, the nature of cocoon is that it is closed. It works by filtering out noise to keep the internal logic consistent. This creates an echo chamber. Within this chamber, the only ideas you hear are the ones that resonate with the story you already believe. The side effect is that it stops you from connecting with alternative ideas. It creates a hard boundary between what is inside the shared myth and what is outside. Inside the chamber, everything feels like common sense because every voice you hear shares the same script. But this isn't accidental. People who have an edge in information, those who control the channels, they decide exactly what is echoed in that chamber. By controlling the inputs, they control the predictability of the system. They ensure that the order remains intact, even if it requires shielding you from the truth. When the walls of this cocoon become too thick, we lose our ability to see objective reality on the other side. We stop seeing facts, we only see the reflections of our own shared myth. Take a real world example like the Stalinist era or even modern day algorithm driven politics. The people at the top, they aren't just lying, they are building an information loop. They study our psychological vulnerabilities, our need to belong, our fear of being an outsider, and they feed us information that rewards us for staying inside the bubble. This is why we see millions of people in modern wars or in movements like extreme nationalism behaving in ways that seem insane to an outsider. You can basically take this very concept and just extend it to many situations or dynamics other than politics. Harari's point is that we are a storytelling animal, so people then understand the small story they have been told, but they are completely blind to the broader dynamics. So, what do we do? I mean, everything is so complex and full of nuances. Awareness is our only form of self defense. We don't need to be a genius to avoid being a piece in someone else's chessboard. We just need to stop being a passive consumer. When you feel that surge of certainty, that common sense, anger, or pride, ask yourself, who gave me this story? What parts of the map are they hiding from me? Whose goal does this narrative actually serve? I mean, we can do it through things like, say, trying to understand a part of the system through books, news, or articles from diverse sources. We can be a bit more open to alternative perspectives, and we can try and fact check before sharing something online. So, the video technically ends here. But before you go, if you are still watching, I just want to say something that's on my mind. I've realized that whenever I read books or look into these stories, I always end up thinking about one thing, which is the imbalance of power. It's not just about politics, it's more about how Some people have so much power while others are just really, really vulnerable. It's not that I hate people having advantages, but I think navigating life and just surviving is so hard for the vulnerable. I think you guys feel it as well because at the end of the day, our human experiences overlap in so many ways. We just have different ways of explaining them. And I think everyone has their own lens shaped by what they have been through, maybe, or just by what moves them, or the books they read, or what they observe. And everything they observe and the way they observe it ties back to that very perspective or that very lens. To be honest, I haven't fully made sense of this idea yet. I'm still figuring it out, but I find myself leaning towards it a lot. I'd love to know what kind of topics interest you guys. I'd also love to hear what sticks in your head when you read a book, watch a movie, or just think about life.